All right, we'll be quiet.
I'll stop looking too.
You don't have to be quiet, Paul. You're the guest. Welcome to the Lovecraft Zine podcast, everybody. F. Paul Wilson is our guest today. Hey, Paul.
Hey there, how are you?
I'm recovering from COVID, but I'll be okay. So
As long as you're recovering, that's a good thing.
I've got my game face on. So,
I volunteered to test the vaccine.
You did?
Yeah, I figure I'm at the age where most of the deaths occur. So
well, but do they give you a placebo or the vaccine?
Well, that's the problem. You don't know, and they don't even know. The people who administer it, it's a double-blind study. So,
right.
Yeah,
I don't like those studies where they poke your eyes out before you start.
Okay, well, before we proceed, I've got some weird readings, so everybody watching, let me know if you can see us and hear us okay. Type it in the sidebar chat for me. Oh, here comes John Lang, and he's late. That's a shocker. So, anyway, yeah, can you guys see us? Maybe not. This is weird. Oh, looks good and sounds good. All right, thank you guys. Yes, F. Paul Wilson is our guest. Paul, you have a new book out called Signals, which is a prequel to, I guess, to Night World, right? Would that be accurate?
Yeah, that novel, yeah.
So
Necessary 5.5, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah. So what we're going to do, we'll do introductions real quick, and then Rick's going to interview Paul about it. So I'm Mike Davis, Lovecraft Zine. Matt, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Matt Carpenter. The prize today is very nice. It is the Littlest Lovecraft Dreamlands collection. It's from like about 2018 or so. It has the White Ship, the Cats of Ulthar, and the Silver Key in a picture book format by Trorex and A.O. Bella. This one is signed by both creators.
Oh, wow.
So if you want to win this, send an email to ezineprizes@gmail.com and put Dreamlands in the title. We'll have a drawing in.
All right.
That's great.
We'll have a drawing in about 3 weeks or so.
So, viewers, is everything synced up better now? Let me know. Rick.
Rick Lay, writer and Pulp magazine historian.
Bridget.
Hello, I'm Bridget, composer, artist, super horror fan.
Kim Smeltzer wants you to just send that right to her, Matt, that book. So, hey, John Langen's here.
Hi, I'm John Langen. I'm here for my 6 o'clock with Dr. Wilson. I'm not sure if he accepts my insurance. I thought we could work that out.
You can
Cash only.
You can do
this. Damn it! That's what Dr. Carpenter said as well.
So, yeah. Paul, why don't, if you would, give us kind of a spoiler-free synopsis of, is it Signals or Signal Z?
Signals.
I
don't know why I did that. I think maybe I listened to a rap song before it. I don't know. But it came out of The Last Christmas, because I introduced the Signals in The Last Christmas, and I didn't feel I was through with them. I just wanted to play with them a little further. And the Signals came about a funny way. I was at Marcon. I was a guest at Marcon, and they put me on this panel about writing prompts. And this woman had brought in, the panel moderator had brought in like sculpture, poetry, excerpts, and a couple of paintings by one of the guys on the panel. And she said, just choose one and just see what it triggers in you. And there was one with there's let's say, a 10-year-old girl standing there holding a doll or a package. And next to her is like an 8 or 7-year-old boy, and he's holding his ears and giving her this questioning, troubled look. And so I wrote out 300 words where this kid hears something that she doesn't hear, and it's really disturbing him. It's making him sick. And I just typed that into my computer later, and it just wouldn't leave me. What's he listening to? Is some sort of a tone? And then when I got the word signals, that means, well, somebody's sending it. And that went into the last Christmas, and then I wanted to follow that little boy, which actually I thought was a girl, but I followed her as a girl, and just to see where she came from and where those signals took her. And all of a sudden, I had this novella that led up to Night World. It wasn't how I had planned it to be, but it's just one of those funny roundabout ways that stories happen.
Well, Rick, why don't you take it away?
Paul, you seem to have a lot of fun with some of the characters. You had a writer who, in this universe, doesn't appear to be that successful.
Yeah, P. Frank Winslow. He's a hack writer, and Jack had met him earlier. I forget the exact book, but he wrote because he has a character called Jake Fix, and for some reason, P. Frank gets his stories from dreams, and somehow his dreams seem to coincide with Jack's life, and so he writes up a lot of his novels were things that had happened to Jack. And this was just a throwaway character, so that I could sort of laugh at myself and other pulp writers like me, and just a bit of a giggle. But the readers really took to him, and they kept saying, after I'd finished run through the whole secret history up through Night World, they kept saying, "Well, what happened to P. Frank?" And okay. So as I was writing this, I just said, well, I'll tell you what happened to Pete Frank, and this is what happened. So again, there's no plan. Things just sort of happen.
You also have a mother and daughter relationship, and the daughter is going through some interesting changes.
Yeah,
and it pays a lot if you read Night World, because you early on figure out what's going on.
Yeah, it was just that was there were things you have in your notebook, and one of them was the line that someone else was looking out through her eyes, and that's just the only thing I had in the notebook, and I said, I've got to use that line somewhere. And I used it on the first page of Signals. And this girl awakens from a coma, and she's really not the little 16-year-old who went into the coma. And there's all sorts of awful things that have happened to her while she was in the coma. Things that aren't really manifested when you look at her, but there's some horrible stuff that goes on later on when she builds this construct in their apartment with a little arch at the bottom, and then it's against an outer wall of the apartment, and she can crawl through, and she goes through there's a passage that's like 50 feet long that should not be possible, and she winds up and they wind up in this chamber. So, and then it gets even more weird from there. But I really went back to horror in this. I just said I'm going to do a horror story, and it's so far the reaction has been great. I mean, people think it's a great addition to the Adversary cycle, and they found out what happened to P. Frank, which they were concerned about.
Rick, let me just jump in real quick for those who maybe aren't familiar. Maybe the 3 people out there in the world who don't know who Repairman Jack is, and then take over again. But Paul, could you just sort of give a short background, assuming that no one's read the Repairman Jack series, and how it fits into the other cycles and so forth, and then, you know.
Well, Jack. I introduced Jack in the Tomb as a standalone book. All the books back then were standalones in my head. The Keep, then there was the Tomb, and then there was the Touch, and I never consciously connected them. But Jack is he's an urban mercenary. His story, The Tomb, started out with a dream about being chased around a rooftop by some hideous sort of monster. And so when I woke up, I said, I've got to use that. And then I had to come up with a character who could survive that. And, I know it couldn't be me, so it had to be somebody a little more streetwise than I. But at that time, that was back in the early 80s, Jason Bourne was the big thing. The Bourne Identity was massive bestseller. And everybody, the thriller writers, were all starting to create their new Jason Bournes, and I did the opposite. I turned it upside down, and I made him. He's never had any training. He's no black ops guy, not ex-CIA, nothing like that. He's this guy from New Jersey, and he has a violent streak, which he channels pretty well, but he also doesn't have a social security card. He doesn't pay taxes. He just lives under the radar and hires out to fix problems. And that's how he makes his living. And it's all cash, so he doesn't have to file a 1040. And so he's this urban mercenary who's really he became a blue-collar hero. And then he found out that, he's been targeted since he was a kid, even before he was born, probably, to maybe take over in this cosmic war and to be, sort of the point man for one of the sides in this war, in case the original point man died. And so that's the way it goes through about how many books, maybe counting. I did some teenage books on him, and I did some prequels, so probably about 23 books with Jack as the protagonist.
Wow, I didn't realize it was so many. I have to say real quick that one of the things that drew me to Jack was his philosophy and independence and wanting to be outside of the system. And the other thing I want to pipe in and say before Rick comes at you with more questions is that I realized only recently, I don't know why. See, I read The Keep, and then what's the next book after The Keep?
The Tomb.
No, I'm sorry, I read The Tomb, and what's after The Tomb? That's what I meant to say.
The Touch.
Right. That's the next Repairman Jack novel, right?
No. I waited 14 years. Legacies was the second Repairman Jack.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking of. So, for 14 years, your readers were wondering what happened to Jack at the end of The Tomb and whether he survived or not. And for me, it was like...
He popped up in the first version of Night World.
Yeah.
That's what told you what happened to him in The Tomb.
Okay, I missed that. But for me, it was just, I read The Tomb, and then I read Legacies, and then I read the next one, and only realized later that some people really didn't. They had to wait a long time to find out. So.
Well,
I was lucky.
I knew as soon as I finished that he was a series character, and I knew the publisher would say, "Oh, let's do another one with Jack," and I didn't want to do a series. I just thought it would take over my career, and I already had The Touch written in my head. I had Black Wind outlined in my head, and I wanted to do those books. And so I sort of left him dying at the end of the tomb. I didn't want to kill him because I liked him too much, but um, I just wanted to get past him and go on to the next book. So
Yeah, it was just pure evil on your part. That's what you're saying. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rick.
I do that a lot.
We'll go with that explanation.
I just got a phone call ringing, so just give me a second.
Okay. Let's see here. I know. Yeah.
Well, I'm kind of curious, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead, please.
When you get something like a graphic novel, it's like you're doing a foray into a different storytelling medium. How much did you have any say as to the content or the script, or are you doing any more graphic novels?
Oh, I wrote the script.
Okay.
I was contracted for 3. I finished the first, and then COVID hit, and distribution went to hell. So I don't know when I'll be writing the second one, because just when it was going to ship, that's when the distributors closed. So they did manage to ship off a bunch to Barnes and Nobles and Amazon, and we had a lot of sales through them, and Dynamite still had their direct sales, but Diamond was basically shut down. So I'm waiting, waiting for this to be over. Then I'll hear from them, and then I'll write the second one. Yeah, it's totally different writing a script like that, and I had to balance it. Whereas the comic book fans of comic books probably don't know anything about Jack. So I had to, in a sense, reprise who he is and give you a sense of who he is and what he does, and still make it, make it interesting to the people who did know him and who were the fans of Jack. And so if you read it, you can see where I'm walking this tightrope, to show you that it's a very weird world he inhabits, and that he is a guy who's below the radar and doesn't live the type of life that the rest of us live.
Here's the book. Father the Ducks. It sort of brings back the tomb, that the villain is a Rakosh. Once he introduced in the tomb.
Yeah, that's that's the lone survivor of the tomb, the lone Rakosh survivor. He also appeared in All the Rage, and this takes place after All the Rage, because Jack left the Rakosh in the Pine Barrens as the New Jersey Devil. So,
quick question for me, though. Well, Gia, she's from Iowa, right?
Ottumwa, yes.
Ottumwa, Iowa. Did you just stick a pin on a map, or was that because I'm from Iowa, so I'm curious? Well,
I wanted her to be, Midwestern, to have a different aesthetic and a different moral basis than Jack. Jack's, from the Northeast,
right,
and he's basically somewhat of an anarchist, and I just wanted that conflict of cultures. She's a middle American,
yeah,
and it's apple pie and that sort of stuff. And then here's this guy who has all these guns and deadly weapons hidden behind his cabinet that she discovers. So the heart of drama is conflict. So, I always look to set up conflict whenever I can.
So if I understand what you're saying correctly, people from Iowa are superior to the North.
Morally superior, for sure.
I'm sorry, Rick, go ahead.
Okay. You have a pulp magazine connection in both The Last Christmas and Signals. And then you do an homage to one of the great pulp crime fighters and include a supporting character from his series. Could you talk a little about that?
Oh yes. Madame Dimitri, you mean?
Well, we'll start out. Well, I was thinking of Burbank.
Oh, Burbank. Okay. That's another one. You know how few people have recognized that.
That's Rick for you.
And the fact that the building he stays in is the Allard. I'm just having fun doing this type of stuff. But Burbank, could be the Burbank from The Shadow. I never say he really is, but he is a communications expert, and he's been in that building since 1931. So who knows? But those are the type of things that it's sort of my little, hello, salute to pulp geeks like me. And Rick's another pulp geek. And I had no doubt that the first Necronomicon I went to is where I first met Rick. And he came up, and I forget what story it was that I had put Madame Dimitri in there, and he came up and mentioned it to me. And I said, no one has recognized that character. I mean, she's an obscure. She was in 3 Sax Rohmer short stories. For some reason, she resonated with me, and I just decided I would just play with her, so to speak. And so, which story was that, Rick? Do you remember? I think that was the.
You did a crossover with Heather Graham.
Yes. Infernal Night. Yes. And she just played. She had 2 scenes, but she was the instigator in the whole story, and she's a fascinating character in that we don't know how old she is. Even in the Romer stories, we don't know how old she is. She seems to be ancient, and I played with that too. So this is my fun. This is where I get off when I'm writing in. This gives me giggles, when I'm doing the stories. But no one now but Rick has mentioned Burbank. No one.
That's Rick for you. He's pretty amazing.
Just to give a background for the readers who don't know, Burbank was a communications expert for The Shadow. If you only know The Shadow from the Adam Baldwin, the Alec Baldwin movie, Burbank is played by Andre Gregory in that. And Madame de Medici was sort of a character that never got fully launched by the creator of Fu Manchu. He had killed off Fu Manchu, that is, he used the pseudonym of Sax Rohmer. And Rohmer had killed off Fu Manchu, so he was experimenting with some new villains, and he had one called Madame de Medici. And eventually, when he decided to resurrect Fu Manchu, Fu Manchu's daughter essentially got all the attributes of Madame de Medici and became a new character.
Yeah, and then later on, they didn't want him doing a Chinese villain after the war, right after the war. So that's when he invented Sumeru,
who was a evil feminist.
Yes.
We used to have I remember we had this all throughout the 50s and 60s. We had all these shows in comic books with radical feminists who want to take over the world and depose man. In Like Flint was James Colburn was one of those movies.
Really?
You don't need Wikipedia with Rick around. And while he's too modest to bring this up, while you guys touched on the shadow, Rick told me about this several years ago, and I completely forgot. Stumbled across it on Amazon. Rick wrote a book called Chronology of Shadows, a timeline of the Shadow's exploits, and it's available print and Kindle. So anybody out there, if you're into the Shadow, go buy this book. And Paul's.
As I said beforehand, I have it.
Yeah.
And it's a mind-bending amount of detail that he has managed to collect and correlate, and then even go into Kent Allard's past. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
The Shadow, for those who don't know, is not Lamont Cranston in the novels. He impersonates a guy named Lamont Cranston. He's Ken Allard. If you're a comic book fan, it's sort of like what they did with Max Spector in Moon Knight. Having a hero with multiple identities.
Layers. The Russian Matryoshka doll type of thing.
Yeah.
Now,
getting back to the graphic novel, the artist was Antonio Fuso.
Yeah.
He did a very nice job. He was making Repairman Jack graphic character.
Repairman Jack kind of, he's this urban street smart guy, and then he starts to notice slowly, right, this cosmic war that's being fought. And
yeah.
And I think it's important to point out that you went the Lovecraftian way as opposed to the Derleth way on this. These two forces, cosmic forces that are playing a game, fighting, whatever, with each other, and Earth is just one of the marbles. And it's not even that important, but there's one that's, what would you say, evil, and the other one's not good. He just wants to beat the other guy. Can you talk about that for just a sec, Paul?
Yeah. One of my problems with the Lovecraft, the Cthulhu mythos is you have these forces out there that are so powerful, and yet they have names for themselves. I mean, the way I looked at it, if you're that big and you're that powerful and you're that pervasive, you don't even need a name, and so any names that I have are like the ally and the otherness, which came from humans, because we have to name things. We have to put something in a pigeonhole,
right?
And then it becomes safe for us. Then we feel a little more comfortable with it. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to avoid that, and so I just have them amorphous. They don't have tentacles or anything like that. They're just out there. And one of the conceits I've used is that sapience is very rare in the universe. That goes with the Fermi paradox. That if there's so many advanced civilizations out there, where are they?
Right.
And
one of the filters is self-awareness and intelligence, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Yeah. So. I mean, sentience is self-awareness and intelligence, and then sapience builds, societies and civilizations. And so they like to play with us. It's like the anthill. What are we going to do? Let's take the queen. Let's pour a little of this on here and do that. Figuratively speaking. And so I explored it further in the Ice trilogy. But someone's coming at it from a different viewpoint, because necessarily perceive things the same way, but you know there's something wrong and something's going on, and somebody's manipulating things, or something is manipulating things. But you don't know who they are or what they are, but you know what's happening. And so I gave another perspective in the Ice trilogy. So that's that's the way I approached it. That one is inimical. They sort of feed on fear and pain and whatever. And the other is just, this is my marble. This is one of my marbles, and I want to keep it. But when evidence of sapience disappears, then, I don't care about it anymore. It's not valuable. The cat's eye marble just became a pebble. So, I'm not interested anymore. So that's the giant chessboard that's out there that these entities are playing.
In the Ice,
go ahead, Rick. I'm sorry.
In the Ice trilogy, you had a little sort of homages to the Cthulhu mythos. And then in the Void Protocol, you mentioned a book written in German.
Yeah.
About ancient cults.
Yeah. I don't know if I mentioned that it was by von Kuntz or not, but it had a black cover, and it just told of some despicable rites, and that came from. There was a PS Publishing published a catalog of books from Innsmouth being auctioned off, and one of them was the Black Book, or Nameless Cults. I won't try to say the German Unsprechen Kulten. I don't speak German, but and I had to describe it and go through its history and everything. So I was very familiar with them. So I just threw that in as a little aside from this German scientist who was brought over in Operation Paperclip, and they thought he was a rocket scientist, but he was working on something even more advanced. And so they stuck him in this special secret lab in the Jersey Pinelands.
You have that character trying to contact some god who is, I think you called him the Dark Man in the novel. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed to me a little like Nyarlathotep from Lovecraft.
Yeah, probably more from Howard. But it was just that this entity they had trapped, this little piece of one of the entities that they had managed to trap, and they thought they had trapped it. Actually, it was just there, watching them. And that is, that made an appearance in another part of the world when there was some horrific things going down. So, and that's what the main character Rick had seen, and it's been plaguing him through the whole trilogy. And he gets a little closure here. I wanted to just give him a little closure.
He had a group of teenagers with superpowers in that too. Like there was a girl who, if you talked to her, you always had to tell her the truth.
Yeah,
they reminded me a little of the X-Men.
Is there? I'm not that familiar with the X-Men. Oh yes, I mean it was obviously that reference. They even say, "Are you Professor Xavier now?" I mean, but don't forget these characters. They could. I took like the Human Torch, and the character could. This character could maybe burn toast, but I based that truth-telling character, and I even give Al Cap a credit in the acknowledgments under his real name, and because that's the bald eagle was the and I called her Iggy. And you didn't catch that? Yes, you got one by
You got that by me. I didn't catch the little Abbey reference.
the bald eagle. She's the bald eagle. So and I think that's a fascinating type of thing. That what's more dangerous than the truth? I mean, this is what frightened them the most. They didn't care that one guy could dissolve things in his hand, and somebody else could move things with their mind. You had to tell the truth around this girl. And that is what just terrified everybody.
You did a young adult series with Thomas Monteleone.
I'm sorry?
You did a young adult series with Thomas Monteleone.
Oh, yes, the Nocturnia Chronicles.
Could you talk about that? Because I haven't read that yet.
They just came out in ebook, all three of them. It's been a long road. That's a long story. It started way back with this fellow who had the rights to the title The Horror Channel, and he this is back in like the late 90s, early aughts. And he said, I want it to be all on online. And he said, in the future, everybody's going to watch everything online. I said, oh man, you're crazy, It's not going to happen. I'm the guy who was out in the 80s in Seattle, and I saw these coffee kiosks from the company's, Starbucks. I said, yeah, really, I mean, you want to start a business like that? I mean, who's going to drink coffee in the afternoon? So again, my business acumen is somewhat suspect. But anyway.
But now you're so far ahead of the game, Paul, that you've got a really cool Northern Lights background. So you're ahead of us in this tech here.
Well, that was just one little click on my screen. Yes, I can't take a lot of credit for it. What were we talking about?
The series, the young adult series.
The Nocturnia Chronicles. So anyway, we said, in the 90s, Matt Costello and I had done FTL newsfeed for a sci-fi channel. And I said, Tom and I, we would just work it up from another world where all the monsters, like the universal monsters, are real. And they have their own countries and city-states. And humans are the minority. As a matter of fact, humans are a food source. And we would just do newscasts from that world. And Horror Channel never took off. And so Tom and I said, listen, we did all this world building. Let's write some books there, and we'll make a young adult type of things. And so over a number of years, we wrote 3 of them, and they're a lot of fun. They really are. I think we have some great. It's a middle grade type of book, and they're a lot of fun. They really are. I'm very proud of them. I'm very happy with them. $3.99 each.
So it's an homage to Universal horror movies, essentially.
Yeah. What you said a little bit ago about these 2 cosmic entities that are just so massive, they don't, why would they even have a name? It just, a very short tangent, but it reminded me of Jehovah in the Old Testament would refer to himself as I am.
I who am.
Yeah.
I don't have a name.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Yeah.
What else you got, Rick? You're playing good cop today, right? Not bad cop.
Right. And I think we could open it up for the other panel if they have any questions.
Except for John.
Sure, I have a question.
Sure.
Yes.
About Repairman Jack, I thought it was interesting that you wrote it in third person, but it's not completely centered around Jack. You hear about a lot of input from the other characters, and you find things out as a reader before Jack finds them out. So I was wondering if you might talk about that choice a little bit.
Yeah, I like multiple viewpoint in novels. That to me makes it a thriller. The mystery novel tends to have one point of view, and you never know more than that point of view character knows. So you're working through the mystery, and it works great with a mystery. You're working through the mystery with him. With a thriller, and I've always written thrillers. My science fiction has been thrillers. My horror has really been thrillers. You have multiple viewpoints, and this allows the reader to know more than any one character. You know more than the villain. You know more than the good guys. You don't know everything though, and that's what keeps you going. But the thing is, it gives you a great ability to build suspense, because you see this person heading this way and then this person heading this way, and say, oh, they're going to meet, and it's going to be bad. And a lot of times I would play against that. Which book was it? I can't remember the titles of my books, but there was a reporter who was going to be killed. She was in this big tube. They were going to make this column, a concrete column. They had her tied up inside in the supports, and they were just going to fill it with concrete and smother her, and that would be it. And no one would ever find her body. So I have Jack heading for the place where it's happening. And you see, everything's getting ready to pour the concrete, and Jack's coming up, and he arrives, and he looks in the window, and it's a big metal frame that they're pouring the concrete in, and he watches them pour the concrete in. He has no idea that she's inside there, and so basically he's watching her be murdered, and it was just going against expectations, because as a reader you're saying, okay, Jack's going to arrive, he's going to save the day. And he doesn't. He doesn't say. He does arrive, but he doesn't save the day because he doesn't know there's any day to save. He never knew she was there. So, again, that's when you play against expectations. But a multiple viewpoint allows you to do that. And it's just that you have to have. I always try to give each character their own voice, because they all have different life experiences. They all come from different places. They all have different frames of reference. And I like to use those frames of reference to distinguish their narrative, so to speak, their voice, give them each a different voice based on who they are. So that if you do it well, you don't even have to see the heading to know whose head you're in. You don't have to see a name, because just from their points of reference and how they are. Dan Simmons did a great job. Carrying Comfort, if you've read Carrying Comfort, Dan Simmons does a wonderful job of giving each character their own voice, and you can just tell who you're listening to, without hearing their name, and that's the way it should be done, as far as I'm concerned.
If I remember correctly, for example, in the Jack Reacher books by Lee Child, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the first several books were in first person, and then Lee Child switches to third person from that point onwards. So I
think just the first book, The Killing Floor, was the first.
So I guess he decided,
Yeah,
it's like that too.
It's. I wish I could take credit for it, but all of us thriller writers really utilize that. Mystery writers, again, it's a different thing. But some writers even do first person for their main character and then third person for other characters, but nothing you switch viewpoints.
And then Chelsea Goodwin is watching live, and she wants to write down the titles of the 3 books in the Ice trilogy.
Panacea, The God Gene, and The Void Protocol. And I will mention that Macmillan, the publisher, has all 3 on sale right now for $2.99.
Oh wow,
that's less than a pocketbook. The ebooks.
That's a huge bargain.
Yeah,
I'm not making many royalties on that, but if she wants to pick it up, $2.99, you can't. How can you go wrong? I mean,
yeah. John?
Oh, can I talk?
You may speak. Yes.
I had a couple of questions. One thing I was really curious about was with the Jack series. Now, you have an ending in place for the universe, and I was kind of curious, like, how does that affect when you're writing? You have the ending that you have to. That's always there. There's always like the place that everything is going to come to that point. So how does that affect, or how does that challenge you when you're like, oh wait, I've got an idea for a new Jack book, or a new book set in this universe, pre-ending. How does the awareness of that ending shape what you do?
Well, it shaped the whole Repairman Jack series when I looped it out from the tomb and ended it at Night World. But I cheated at the end. I rewrote Night World.
Right.
Because Jack was a minor player in Night World. And by the time I decided that I'd written enough that, the weight of all the narrative was just too much to continue much, much further. I mean, I could have just, put another installment in. But I did have I approached it with saying it's going to be a limited series. I'm not going to go on forever. It's not going to be a Spencer. It's not going to be Jack Reacher. I have an ending. I know where it's going to end because I've already written the ending, and I'm just going to get you there. And when I got close to it, I said, I'm not going to drag it out. I'm just going to end it. I had a 6-month gap in which I inserted The Last Christmas. The idea for The Last Christmas had been in my notebook for a long time. And I couldn't make it work. I mean, I've got to find a way that I can believe it, even if I just, all this stuff is all made up anyway. But it has to be something that I can work with, with an internal logic. And I couldn't make this story work to my satisfaction. And then I came up with Melis in The Void Protocol. I said, holy crap, this is going to allow me to do that idea for Jack. And then The Last Christmas came out of that. And I had a 6-month gap between Ground Zero and Fatal Error. And so I stuck the story in there. But it's always hard to do that because you can't do anything that's going to affect anything in the future.
Right. So how about that? Like, it seems to me that you've constructed at this point, right, this kind of, massive architecture. You've got this sort of great construction with all these different novels that, you said when you started off, you were saying to yourself, I'm not going to write a series. These are going to be independent novels. But then everything sort of hooks together. And I find the only person off the top of my head I can think of is King doing it with the Dark Tower books, where everything kind of feeds into the Dark Tower. So, what was, I don't know, was that an homage to, do you think of it as a sort of homage to, what Lovecraft and his circle built, this kind of, large construction, or was it just fun? I mean, which is not to disparage it, but just like, what were you thinking about that way?
I've always liked Heinlein's future history. I just thought it was very neat to be reading a story and they mention a character that you had read another story about. I said, "Oh, that's cool. I like that." So when I started writing my science fiction, the Lenague Federation series, I said, "I'm going to connect all these stories." But then, when horror, which was my first love, became feasible to do, from thanks to Stephen King, and so I switched over and wrote The Keep, and I would do maybe one science fiction novel a decade, but my heart was really with the fantastic, and so when I was commissioned, I said, "Well, why don't I write a sequel to the Keep?" And it was between Tor and Ace, and Ace got made a bit better offer, so I did it, and it turned out to be 3 books. I one huge book actually, but I broke it up into Reborn, Reprisal, and Night World, and I was just shocked. I mean, I think it's a talent of mine to be able to retrofit things, but yeah, I was shocked at how easy it was for me to make everything part of a whole, and it looked like I'd been thinking about it all along. I really hadn't. Maybe not consciously anyway. Maybe
right, somewhere down below. Yeah.
Somewhere in the crocodile brain, I was linking all these things, and so I was shocked how well it worked out. And then I ended it all in Night World in 1992, and then I was busy with other projects, and finally I had this idea for a tech thriller where Jack would be actually a great character for it, but it had to be a medical thriller because that was my contract, was for 3 medical thrillers. So I just had a doctor hire him, and I said, "That's a medical thriller. There's a doctor there," and they knew I was kidding, but they liked the book, and so they published it, with the big "Jack is back" type of thing, and that to me was going to be, well, I just brought him back for this book, and then they said, "We really sold well. Why don't you do another one?" And so I did Conspiracies. And Conspiracies is where, as I'm writing it, I'm having so much fun that I start thinking, I can stay with this guy and have some fun. And
that's the one with UFO convention and all that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That's great.
I don't know if I told you, but I went to a real UFO convention to research it, and it was totally amazing. And a lot of the conversations are straight out of the convention. And the conversations in the book are straight out of the convention. Stuff I couldn't make up. And that's when I started seeing a bigger picture. I said, okay, I'm going to involve Jack in the whole stuff that I hinted at in The Keep. And so that's where it all came from.
That's wild. That's so when you get asked by young writers these days, they say, "What's your advice?" I'm starting out, I want to write horror. You've had a very successful career as a horror writer. What are things you wished that you knew when you were starting out, that you can pass on?
John, you're not a young writer. Or
damn it, Davis, shut up.
No, it's just I wish that there were the resources available to me then that there are now. I had nobody to give me advice. No workshops easily available. I teach annually at the Borderlands boot camp, and I wish I'd had that early on. I mean, it would have just jump-started the quality of my writing, because I'd never taken a writing course. I had never done a workshop. John Campbell used to tell me what was wrong with the story, and I would, I would just say, well, on the next one, I would try to make sure I didn't make that same mistake again. So I envy this generation of writers because, and I've seen it. We started the Borderlands boot camp in 2006, and they really needed a lot of help. And the stuff now we've seen the last couple of years, I mean, all the stuff that helped them, they've gotten online and such, they're handing in some pretty good stuff. I mean, relatively, it's miles above what we saw 15 years ago. So the general quality of the writing has improved tremendously. What would I advise a horror writer? I don't know. I don't understand, what's going on in horror too much. I don't pay that much attention to it. And I read. I tend to read the more. I mean, I've seen some really good stories. I think there was one anthology called Lost Signals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Boy, the stories in that were really top notch.
Yeah.
And they may even have spurred me to. No, I guess they didn't spur me to write Signals, because that was that writing exercise that really spurred me to write Signals. But I thought the writing in that was fabulous, and people I've never heard of, and who paid attention to that anthology? That thing should have gotten awards. I mean, but what's going on in science fiction fantasy? I really don't know. I try to keep up with science fiction, but I get free books from Tor and that type of thing, but it just doesn't speak to me anymore like it used to.
You're absolutely right about Lost Signals, and I thought I had this right, and I looked it up, and I do. That's edited by Max Booth the Third and Laurie Michelle. Has stories by Josh Malloran, Damian Angelica Walters, Matthew Bartlett, he's just tailor-made for a book like this. Scott Nickley does the introduction. So yeah, it's a damn good anthology.
Yeah.
To wrap up, just a couple quick things, Paul. First of all, my mother told me several months ago she read The Keep. I can't remember if she read it or if she reread it and read it a long time ago, but she loves World War II fiction and documentaries and so forth, and so she just loves that book, The Keep. So I thought I would pass that on to you.
Wonderful woman.
Smart woman, right? And then I guess the last question I have is for the person out there listening to all this, and they're thinking to themselves, this F. Paul Wilson universe sounds so interesting. I want to get into it, but it's so massive. I'm feeling sort of overwhelmed. You actually, correct me if I'm wrong, have a solution for that on your site. You sort of list everything in order. Is that right?
Yeah, that's chronological order. That's probably not the best way to introduce yourself to it.
All right.
I think probably reading The Keep, to start with The Keep, it just gives you an idea of a snapshot of the big picture, and then I would read, and I would read go through to the secret history list, and then read from then on. Don't go back. But I read from then on through Night World, because I'll never go beyond Night World.
Your site is repairmanjack.com, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And there is there's a drop-down menu for books, and one of them says a secret history.
So the keep and then the secret history.
Yeah, and go forward from that.
Okay.
Then you can go back and fill in if you want to. I mean, I'm hearing from people online all the time that they read it piecemeal over the years, and now they've gone back and they've started from the very first story, which is Demon Song, and they go all the way through to Night World, and it's a hell of a long. There are millions of words. I mean, I've written millions of words in the secret history.
It's a long haul, but it's an enjoyable haul.
Yeah. They seem to think so, and it's very gratifying to hear that. But and I salute them because it's a challenge and it takes a certain amount of devotion. But they all seem to think it's rewarding, which is to me is it's high praise.
Then last but not least, also on your site, they can sign up for your newsletter that you email out occasionally, and that's actually very informative. Keep fans abreast of what's going on. So
yeah, it's once a month, the first of the month. I've been doing it for 20 years.
Yeah.
I think I've missed it once or twice. I mean, maybe when I had heart surgery, but
that flimsy excuse.
Yeah. Come on, Wilson.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, okay. Well, yes, the new book is called Signals. If you're, speaking to the audience now, if you've read all or most of Paul's books, then pick up Signals, and that gives you more of a slice of it. And if not, like you said, start with the Keep and go to Repairman Jack and the Secret History forward, if I remember right.
Yes.
What you said. So, all right,
folks.
Paul, thank you so much. I always enjoy talking with you so much. So
it's always great talking to you guys.
Thanks for interviewing this guy.
Yeah, take care, Paul.
So,
anytime you want me back, I'll be glad, because it's just fun to talk to you people.
That's great to hear. We'll definitely have you back. So
all right.
Take care. Talk to you soon.
Thanks very much. Sure. Bye-bye.
Bye. You can just, there you go. So the Keep and then the Secret History, and go from there. Thanks for doing the interview, Rick. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And so now we're going to have some folks coming in from, there's a new movie out on Shudder, and there's Judd now. There's a new movie out on Shudder called Host, and it's very, very, very good. Hey, Judd, how are you?
I'm very good, Mike. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
The cast and Gemma, the writer, are shortly joining us.
Yep, Gemma's in the waiting room right now. So I just clicked her through, and we won't ask too much before everyone gets here, but while we're waiting on everyone, maybe you could just give us a spoiler-free. But Judd Shepard is one of the writers of Host, along with Gemma Hurley, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah. Hey.
That's right.
Hey, good to see you again. So while we're waiting on everybody, why don't, if one of you, Judd or Gemma, want to give us a spoiler-free synopsis of
Hey.
Yeah.
Sure. So, Host is a film that's all set on Zoom. So, you guys are probably sick to death of Zoom in general, but it feels like it's one of the biggest kind of bits of communication that has come to light during this kind of lockdown quarantine. Even though it's been out since I think 2013 or something like that.
I was using it before it was cool.
Early adopter. So myself and the director Rob Savage, we've been making these kind of smaller movies. One was called Salt, starring Alice Lowe. One was called Dawn of the Deaf, which got into Sundance, and we played basically every festival around the world. And we were really itching to get something made. We're in lockdown, and we have this WhatsApp group called Quarantine Movie Club, which Gemma's only actually joined today, which is which is great. But in that WhatsApp group, we have all of the people that you see in the film host, the entire cast. The majority of the crew are in this WhatsApp group, and every day during lockdown we would just watch movies, and that's why we call it Quarantine Movie Club. And then one day we just decided to make a movie, and it was kind of spawned from the director Rob Savage doing a 2-minute prank video, which involved him calling us all up on Zoom, climbing up some stairs to his attic, which he's told us he's been hearing noises in, and then doing a very clever live jump cut to a scene from Wreck with a kid sitting in the attic and jumping out. And we thought it was quite funny. 2 minutes long. We stuck it online, and it got like 6 million views across all the places. Nice. Yeah. So we were like, okay, we've got something here. So obviously, once we've got a viral video, you get people calling on you to kind of make it a bit longer and potentially make them some money. So we got offers from all over the place, but the one that we thought just made perfect sense was Shudder, because not only are they a great company, one that I kind of subscribe to right now, they have a platform where we can instantly put the film once it's made. So the whole thing was, we used our friends as the actors, we used our friends as the crew. We got Gemma involved, which she wasn't originally one of our quarantine friends, but now she's very much part of the team.
Part of the gang.
Yeah, and that's essentially how we did host. All shot remotely and with social distancing measures included.
I also want to say many people watching and listening later will have seen Host already, but there'll be some who haven't, and they're like, the buzz.
Matthew,
yeah, like Matt, the buzz has started very suddenly. It seems like to me for you guys, and well deserved, because I watched it last night with my family and scared the hell out of my wife. So she's not happy with you, but that's all right. So spoiler-free chat of this as much as we can. But okay, so let's do this. Judd and Gemma, you guys are 2 of the 3 writers, if I have this correctly. Yep. Could you guys just sort of briefly introduce yourself, and then the lovely actresses here introduce yourselves, and then we'll talk about Host.
Yeah. My name's Judd Shepard. Among the many things I kind of do, I'm a writer and I exec produce this as well. And I suppose we're based in London. I'm based in London, and I love horror. Horror is my forte. Ever since I was a little kid, it's horror. I didn't really know anyone else who was into horror, so it was just me buying horror books and horror comics and watching every single horror film available. In my bedroom where I am now, I have like 1,200 VHS surrounding me with every obscure horror film we can think of. It's going to fall through the floor at some point, but horror is my thing.
Judd, you remember in our video test, Carolyn said she was going to be in the same room. Someone just remarked on the live stream.
Oh yeah.
Really weird seeing Caroline in that same room.
And Regina.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. I'm going to see it again. I've only seen it once, so I don't have everything burned in my brain yet. But
Gemma?
And I just have to ask this. This obvious joke. You guys have used Zoom before, right? Are you familiar with it?
A couple of times.
I know it's a little on the nose, but doing the video test with you guys and talking to you now, it's a little bit surreal after seeing the movie last night. So I'm glad you're all alive.
I'm the only one with common sense who's actually not in the same place. I'm the only one with brains.
I sleep in here. I have nowhere else to go.
Now, see, we here in the States, we have the advantage because I've still got daylight streaming in over there, but it's like after midnight for you guys, right? So, like, let's say if I wanted to say, Emma, I think I saw something move behind you. You know, they'd be.
Don't get me started. Stop.
they are scaredy cats. Even though they're like legit scream queens now, they are scaredy cats.
Exactly. Gemma. Gemma, you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, I'll just be brief. Yeah, I'm a screenwriter, and as Jed said, like I wasn't part of this gang before this. I hadn't met really any of them before lockdown.
You were drafted.
I was drafted, yeah. Like I met Rob, the director, once, like a year ago, and I guess he trusted me enough to come on and like help create this into like a more of a feature from the prank. But yeah, no, I'm a screen. I write TV, British horror genre TV, essentially. But really, I feel a little bit of like a sham, like taking credit for the writing, because I think a lot of the wonderful dialogue that the people have responded to so much has come from the cast. Like that, so much of that was improvised. Like, and
really,
yeah. And I suppose even some of the stuff that was kind of scripted was built around a real seance that we did with the cast as part of the research like periods with a real medium. Like a lot of that, like basically the first 30 minutes of the film is true. You know, we got a medium, their connection dropped out, things went weird, and we forgot to close the seance down. Like it was all real, and all the, you know, watching the dynamics of this cast, like how they were interacting with that was just kind of the kind of core of the movie. So it kind of wrote itself in a way. I mean, would you guys agree with that, ladies?
Yeah, I think
to an extent, yeah.
Yeah, but it was you guys that came up with the great plot, and like there were definitely some like funny one-liners that were suggested to us, and we did them, and they ended up in the film. So that was down to you.
Well, yeah. I want the other ladies to introduce themselves, but before I just want to briefly point out that this sort of it's not an exact metaphor, but you know, blurring the line between reality and the fiction of the story, you know, the fourth wall maybe a bit. You know, in the movie you guys were in lockdown, you're using Zoom, even your characters' names are all of your first names. So, you know, it's really cool.
Can I just speak to that just before they answer?
Please.
The reason why we use their real names is kind of a callback to some of the found footage films that have come from in the past. So Blair Witch Project was probably the first one that I saw that kind of did that, and because it did that, it gave it an air of authenticity, and it added to the realism which is necessary to have a successful found footage film. If the audience believes what they're saying, then they will believe that these characters really die. Yeah. And the other reason why it's great that they use their own names is because we're all friends. All of the girls are genuine friends. So by using their real names to each other, it just makes them feel really in the situation as well, which will help them help us to enjoy it more.
Also, it probably made filming easier because we had so many things to do technically because we're in our houses on our own. So adding each other's names on top to remember that continuity could have ended up being
imagine if we had like a full script to learn on top of everything else, like worded to the T. That would have been like.
Well, why don't you ladies introduce yourselves? Carolyn, why don't we start with you and then go to the right here.
Hello, I'm Caroline. I am a actress and a writer and a director. I've got a couple of short films that I've written and directed that are in film festivals at the moment. One of them is a comedy short, and it's in the Woods Hole Film Festival in Massachusetts, which is really cool. If it wasn't for the current situation that we're all in, I'd have been out there this week meeting some of you, so that would have been amazing. But yeah,
all right,
in the haunted bedroom instead.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Emma, who is also in a haunted bedroom. Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, So I'm Emma. I am an actress, a musician, and also a writer. And I play Emma in Host, as you know. And yeah, so I ended up doing this.
Radina, am I saying your name correctly?
Yeah.
Okay.
The first person to do that, actually. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Radina. I am also based in London, like everyone. I'm originally from Bulgaria. I'm only an actress, I guess. So for now, like special skills, little column, but yeah. I studied with Caroline and Haley in the same class, actually, at Central, and Gemma as well. I know through Central.
That's a drama school in London.
Yeah, it's a drama school. And I met Jed and Rob again through Central. And we did our first film together with them when it was 2015. Was it 2016? Can't remember. Dawn of the Deaf.
Film called Dawn of the Deaf.
Yes. So yeah, that's how I know the guys. And yeah, that's me.
Yeah, so Caroline, Radina, and Haley, they were all in a film that we did before this called Dawn of the Deaf, which is about a sound that kills everyone and only the deaf people survive. And that's the one that got into Sundance and kind of started us off on this journey, really. And Emma is in my film. Actually, all of the girls from Host are in my film called Multiplex, which is out in a couple of months or so. And so if you want to see them again in slightly different circumstances, they're in that. But how I met Emma was really interesting because I do panels at Comic-Con, and I was hosting a panel for a film called The Void. I don't know if you've seen that. It's actually a Lovecraftian horror called The Void.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. So I was on that panel, and it was questions and answers at the end, and it was like, I don't know, 1,500 people in the audience. And so we opened up the floor to questions, and the spotlight came onto this young girl, and it was Emma. And the question she asked was, "Hi, I'm Emma. I'm an actress. How do I get into one of your films?" Like that was her question, right? And there was a big screen behind me, and I think it was Emma's brother took a picture of Emma asking me that question, and I didn't know her.
It's video. I've got the video of it.
There's video of it as well, and because I had Multiplex on my mind, which was about me and my sister when we were about like 16. I was like, Emma looks a lot like my sister. Like, so this is good. So after Comic-Con, I think she followed me on Instagram. I followed her back. And I was like, you look severely like my sister. It's strange.
Severely.
Yeah. So when I had the whole thing in place, then I contacted her, and we made a cool film called Multiplex, and then and she was called Emma in that as well. And because she became part of the friend group, she was automatically drafted into Host.
So
I think it's just because I was jumpy. That's why you put me in Host.
Your reactions are great as well. Yeah.
Is this going to be like a Sean Bean thing where he dies in everything he's filmed, but Emma's always got to be called Emma in whatever film, whatever she appears in, she's got to be called Emma. So
I am actually doing another film where she is called Emma. No joke.
Oh my god.
Or Kenny in South Park as well. Kenny in South Park dies in every episode, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Kenny is South Park.
Did I miss anyone in the introductions? I don't think I did.
No, of course.
So the way I literally did not know about Host until 2 days ago. And the way I found out was Stephen Graham Jones, a writer that I know, tweeted, and this guy is not a scaredy cat by any means, I don't think. He tweets, 2 days ago, he tweets this: "Just had to come upstairs a single step at a time, my back pressed to the wall, my heart trying to escape my puny chest. Scariest film I've seen in forever. Did not help that my wife was sneaking around on purpose for fun in quotes, making mysterious noises, not sleeping for a while yet." So then I thought, okay, I gotta watch Jim. So
we've had that a lot. People accusing us of making them soil their pants. That they're going to send us the bill to clean up the sofa.
Well, I said there should be a warning at the start of the film saying like cover your couch with like cling film.
Yeah. I mean, there should maybe be a warning that it's scarier than it looks, because people might think that a Zoom horror will just be like unfriended or something, will just be like very simple. But we've made sure in the kind of writing process that this was a lot more than meets the eye. And I think after it gets past the initial bit and once it gets onto the seance, then you realize it's not so simple.
Well, I really mean this. I have to say that this film is just a gem. There's so much crap out there. There's some good stuff too, but this is just an absolute. It was a joy to watch as a horror fan.
Thank you.
And it wasn't just. I mean, the directing, yes, was wonderful. The writing was wonderful, but then too, as Jim alluded to, the acting on the part of you ladies was just. I mean, I believed it. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
I was in the situation. Well, yeah. Thanks for a great movie.
Yay! Thanks for watching it.
Yeah. Well, you've gotten a lot of press lately, and you deserve it. It's a great movie. TV Guide wrote, and this is one of the things I want to ask you about. The really impressive parts of Host are the technical ones. Savage, that's Rob Savage, right?
Yep.
Directed the actors remotely, and the actors operated their own cameras, did their own lighting, and helped set up their own practical effects. The effects and stunts are very cool and surprising, and the scares are much more effective than you might expect. Savage uses Zoom's built-in features that we've all become familiar with for clever purposes, and I won't reveal what that is. I can't remember which character that was, though. That's not really a spoiler. Who was that?
Who did what? What was the set piece?
Walking around. The one of the ladies. She's in the background walking around.
Oh, the Zoom background. That's
Yes.
Caroline.
Oh, Caroline. Yes.
That's Caroline. Okay. All right.
Very impressive death.
Yeah.
It's not a spoiler because you know what's going to happen in the horror film. But yeah, it's
very a happy ending.
Yeah. So I'm assuming you did that, Caroline, right?
Yeah. Me and Jed actually had because I tried to do it on my own to figure out the sort of the bit of doing that, and I just couldn't get it right, the technical side of it. So then me and Jed had a Zoom session to figure it out, to get like the resolution and everything right for it. So
I don't want to say anything more about it, Split, but it's just, I get sent a lot of things for review, films, short films, books, and so forth, and it just, Host really stands out, and that's one of the things that makes it stand out too. Caroline's background, it was just so fucking creepy,
So creepy.
It really was.
And the sound, the crunching sound that you hear within that scene is horrible. It gets me every time because it looks so real. And because Caroline's a really good friend of mine, it's like I don't want her to be hurt, but it looks like she's genuinely not having a great time.
Yeah.
The thing about
this is the point of the actual
thing.
Yeah.
So the stunts or special effects or whatever we want to call them, you guys had to do this yourself. You were never in the same location as the director or the writer or anything, correct? So
no.
I don't want to give anything away, but for example, there's one with a chair and one of you gets knocked back. I mean, how in the hell did you do that? It's just amazing.
Is that Haley?
Yeah, Haley's one.
I think Haley.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it's a girl that isn't here right now.
Right.
But Yeah, I mean, everything's in camera. Most things are in camera. So Rob's a directing genius, and he essentially at the very start of this process, he sent them all the things they would need to create a real haunting in their house, which consisted mostly of fishing wire. So, so when you see things flying around and things being pulled around, it's mostly fishing wire. And if they have a partner or a parent or anyone in their house, we rope them in as well.
Yeah, we had a few sort of like rehearsals before we actually started filming and before everything was finalized to see what we can do, what we can move, like if we can knock over some books or something, you know. So everything was tested before. Rob was just giving ideas.
But I imagine how difficult it must be to do the test, and then I don't know if you did like several takes where you still had to be frightened to death each time, you know. Is that right? Is that how it worked? Because
I mean, it's the same as any film, I guess, because you kind of have to keep it there. But yeah, like if anything, because on this, especially when we're reacting to other people's things, a lot of it we did live with each other with the group stuff, but the more technical bits were pre-recorded and then put together, and then you'd get our real reactions. So it was kind of like, you don't normally get that on a film set, you know. You have to usually imagine what's going on, but with this, we were watching the edited special effect version of what was going to be in the film. Probably not like the most updated one, but like a version of that. And like, yeah, so that was better than having nothing to react to. So in a way, it was more fun. But then on the same note, you had your own face there, which we couldn't get rid of. We had to just have our face there, and you could see your own acting, which was weird, but like kind of helpful as well in some ways.
Think about that,
yeah, it was quite helpful.
So that was going to be my next question. Some of these guys were genuine reactions, you know, genuine in quotes, to what was happening, and some weren't.
So the first thing that Rob did was direct all of the deaths and all the elaborate set pieces first. So we knew we had that in the bag, and then none of these, everyone had redacted scripts. So there were more scriptments than scripts, because a lot of this is them just coming up with stuff. Like the Blair Witch, they knew they had to get from point A to point B via point C. And how they did that was almost up to them to a certain extent. So what would happen is they really didn't know who was going to die next, or what that death would entail, until they saw it themselves live. Well, as part of the narrative, they would see Regina die or Caroline die, and that would be their real reactions. And don't forget, they're using their real names, and they're all friends. So you're seeing absolute terror on their faces, and I think it comes across really well. And it's Rob and our really cool producer Douglas Cox, and the editor Brenner, put together all of this into this kind of beautiful package. And yeah, but can I just say that the two girls that are on here, Gemma and Haley, they obviously incredible actors too, and just all. Yeah, these five together are unreal, and we used our friends as well. So if we had a weak link in there, it would be because we used our friends. But the fact they're getting so much praise from just universally across the entire internet just makes this this project so special, and it's really cool.
I had a question for the cast.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing, because I've never really met you in real life, and I had to come on and watch you guys do a seance and try and figure out what the dynamic of this group was and how it was, try and imagine tension and conflict to put on you and stuff. I really wanted to know, how did you guys feel about how your friendship was kind of, warped a little bit to, for this film?
It's a good question. Yeah.
I think it was really fun because it was because we don't have any, we literally just all get on, and we all just really like each other. So to then like have to invent those sort of plots and those kind of sort of dynamics, and then react, like those who weren't involved in those particular dynamics would have to react as if that history was there and all that. And it was really fun because it kind of just added another element of like playing to it, which was really fun. Yeah, because obviously, like, especially in the earlier part where there's less sort of technical things going on, the kind of sort of freedom for the acting in terms of like the fluidity of the dialogue and stuff was like really fun to play with that. To each take we'd find something new that we could like play with and stuff. So yeah, it made it.
Yeah, something else.
Sorry,
you go, Emma.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, I think it just helped us be a little bit braver as well. Like, I feel like it's easier to kind of lay into your friends, like as an acting thing, if you kind of know each other. Because on the break in the group chat, like, I'm sorry, I don't mean it.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't really hate you. I'm just
it's like intense when you're like screaming at each other and like, like shouting and stuff. But
before we started, we had a chat with Rob about the characters, or like my own character. So it was like we did have a few thoughts of like which traits or which characteristics I should bring forward and which not. Like just I'm still playing relatively myself. Like I'm quite similar to the character, but there were certain things that I was just like, hey, I'm going to push this forward a little bit just so it works better for the group dynamic.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So that was fun. But also the fact that we know each other so well. We've all acted in front of each other. Like we know each other as actresses as well. And it was very comforting. It was a very safe space to just express everything that we feel and just to try different things. And it was a very good place for an actor to just improvise safely. Because you meet such beautiful work back. So yeah, that was beautiful. So it was very good. I loved acting with my friends.
And the other thing is because myself and Rob were very close to these girls, almost like too close in terms of we couldn't see from an outsider's point of view. It was one of the main reasons why we brought Gemma in, because Gemma could assess them, and we had opportunities to, before we started writing anything, for Gemma to observe them in their natural habitat, just talking to each other on Zoom. We held a seance to see what would happen during a seance, and Gemma was an observer there with her notebook and typing away, being very Machiavellian. And so yeah, and it was great to hear the feedback from Gemma afterwards, like, okay, that this person gets on better with this person, and this would work well, and stuff that we wouldn't even think of because we're so close to the girls. And another thing, like myself and Rob, where we sometimes don't necessarily think about the heart of the piece and how the emotional kind of like beats work, because we're so interested in the set pieces and making cool kills, and Gemma's just an expert at pretty much everything. But Gemma adds the heart to it, and it was a great theme.
Thanks.
So, are all of you horror fans?
I literally I can't even speak. I very rarely watched horror in my whole life until we started filming this, and Rob made us watch, because one of the things he'd do is so we all watched Paranormal Activity 3 together. Which was, and I loved it. That was great.
Is it really? Because I've only seen the first one, and I heard the second one was bad.
Yeah, that's true. The third one is set in the 80s, and it's mostly like VHS.
Oh, okay.
And it's about the lead girl when she was a younger girl, and it was happening like then.
Oh, okay.
And I just think it's very, very clever in it. There's a couple of techniques in that you'll see also, but we've changed it slightly in Host.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. What were you saying?
Oh, it was just that when we were shooting, like Rob would do this thing where he would, before we'd start doing a section of filming, he would make us all turn our lights off, and he'd do a screen share, and share a clip of like a horror film. So definitely seen a lot of seen loads of them now.
It was awful.
with each character that they would get more and more intense. So when we got to the end, we were watching the most disgusting horror clips you've ever seen in your life. Me and Gemma and Haley by the end were like sit there like trying to not be sick. Like,
who watches this shit?
No.
I'm traumatized.
I'm actually such a wimp. I'm really bad with scares. I don't watch that many horror films, so like I haven't seen many of these clips, and I was just like, oh my god, this was my prep. I was just so scared.
Yeah.
Oh,
see, I think I'm definitely converted now, because like working with these guys they know, I feel like they know everything about horror, so it's like a proper education, and now I feel like I've learned so much from them that when I do watch things, I can notice like I actually know what I'm looking at, and I find that so interesting now. So I think I'm converted now.
Yeah. At the beginning of the movie, my wife was saying, I watched it with my wife and my son, who just turned 18, and my mom, who I moved a couple buildings over from us. At the beginning, Danielle, my wife, was saying, yeah, I'd like to do a seance sometime. I think that would be cool. At the end, she's like, I'm never doing a seance. No.
When we had to do the fake, but when we had to do like the prep for it and we did the real seance, me and Caroline were like, do we have to do it?
Yeah. In that case, actually, that was pretty similar to the research that we had to do the real seance. Because Gemma actually asked us, okay, like who's a skeptic and who's like really scared of this stuff. So it was like, I'm the skeptic. I am a skeptic. So she's like, okay, right. I'm going to write it.
But also terrified.
Yeah, but secretly really scared.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to put it together in my mind, because you're dressed differently. I've only seen the movie once.
Yeah.
So this is a dumb question, but I'll ask it anyway. Who played the girl with the glasses who was very...
Gemma. Yeah. So
okay.
Gemma's not here, but Why? What are you going to say about Gemma?
She was annoying as hell, which I'm sure she's not in real life. I'm sure that's what she was going for.
She's the loveliest human ever.
She's playful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole time, my wife and I are going, everything that's happening is her fault, you know.
Yeah, but do you notice that she's the only one who's actually proactive? They actually got up and did something.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So if I was in, so I empathise with Gemma the most. I think I'd be the one that's kind of like poking people and being playful, and then after everything's my fault, think, okay, right now I need to figure this out and sort it out, and so she's the only one that actually got up and did something. So she's actually the hero of the piece, really. In
Gemma's character is based on Jed.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
She's trolling everyone.
No, I definitely see myself as a Gemma sometimes.
If Gemma's watching now, or if she watches later and everything, I'm not disparaging her. I'm actually saying what a great actress, because I'm sure she's not that way, but she played a very annoying character, you know. So, you know.
In real life, she's like the loveliest person ever.
Yeah.
She's not like that.
Yeah.
So is Haley, both of them. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing, like when myself, Gemma, and Rob were like writing it, we needed someone to have some conflict within the group. Otherwise, you're going to have a very boring group of friends. Even though in real life we might be a boring group of friends because there is no conflicts, but we needed to create some in order to
need some tension, some dynamic to reflect the horror.
Yeah, and I said if no one messed around, there wouldn't be a horror film.
That's very true. Yeah.
Because that was the thing we were thinking. Remember, Gemma, we were thinking. So why is this? Why is this happening? Like, we've got all these cool ideas, but why is it happening to this group of people? And it was because they essentially lied to the spirits. They called out to something, a name that wasn't there, or they lied. And when
it was
you
kind of that disrespecting thing, wasn't it? I mean, originally, like, I was thinking like, well, maybe, it could be like before I knew that you actresses was going to be in it, I was thinking, could it be like about a toxic relationship in lockdown? And, just thinking about those people that you see on your kind of social Zooms, you're like, oh, there's a bit of something going on. And in the end, I think we kind of gave that to you, Radina, because it was just like, let's, have that I wanted to have that kind of, explore that. But it was all
Radina lives with their boyfriend as well. So
nothing about your relationship with Alan. But
we actually get on.
But it was just like, what does a toxic, I feel like the lockdown's kind of amplifying a lot of issues in relationships, and it's kind of like a lens for things. And if we're all disconnected from each other, it was, what does that look like on this kind of Zoom call? It was just kind of a way to explore this kind of like, this kind of toxicity that might be in this friendship. This seance is a way of, drawing that out in a really unexpected way, through disrespecting each other by disrespecting the spirit, I suppose, is the kind of parallel we were going for.
Yeah. And we just used a lot of things that the actresses had in their house, because the set is their house. We had to use what we had. So Radina had a boyfriend there who was an actor, but we had to put that into the story. Haley also had a boyfriend there who was up for like rigging up the chair and stuff like that. Emma's very well known for the filters that she uses on Instagram and stuff. So we thought we'd put that into the film, as ultimately her demise. And Caroline just really sweet, and her dad's there who's awesome, who's become like the star of the film essentially. Her dad, Pat. Everyone loves Pat, and he's in the film momentarily, but it's almost like a show stealer. So we just used everything we had around us, and that's what you've got.
Another question I have, but I also want to say to the rest of the panel, please do feel free to chime in with questions too. But I knew, and I love doing this, I knew absolutely nothing about Host. All I knew was that it scared Stephen, and if he seriously, if Stephen likes something, I know I'm probably gonna like it. Stephen, Paul Tremblay, all those guys, John Langan. I respect their opinions. Yeah, not that guy. So I went into it. I didn't watch any trailers. Didn't read anything about it. So I really didn't know anything about it. And then I see, it's a Zoom call, and then I'm like, whoa, they're in lockdown. It's like it's happening, this is like real life here. Because how many millions of Zoom calls have we all been on since, we all had to start social isolating, social distancing and so forth. And I'm like, wow, that just adds a layer of reality to it. And then I thought this was so clever to add even more reality to it. Sometimes when you watch a TV show or a movie and they're like on video calls with each other, and it always goes perfectly. There's never a glitch. The internet never goes out. I can remember a scene in the second season of Smallville where Clark's out in his barn. This is like 2002. He's out in his barn away from the house with a laptop, and he's got great internet. I'm thinking, oh, come on. But with your movie, guys, it's, you see little, just like a real Zoom call sometimes, you see these little glitches or a frozen screen for a second, or, things like that. And it adds more to the reality, so to speak, of what's going on. You feel it more. So
yeah, I mean, one of the realest things is we got Zoom's permission to use their assets. So even I don't think we ever say Zoom in the film. I don't think you guys ever actually say Zoom in the film, but we could have if we wanted to, and we would be fine. But all of the little like things you know about Zoom, like the participants, the chat, the share screen, record and stuff, reactions, that's all there on screen. We were allowed to use that and any graphics we wanted to add to the realism. Otherwise, we'd have to just make up something called Doom or Boom or something and pretend that's it, which would have really taken you out of, like when you watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer and they're using like Boogle or something instead of Google. Yeah, so all of these little things add to the realism, the names, the fact that they're friends, the fact that everyone is using Zoom right now and it's about or set in the pandemic, even though we don't really mention it that much. You just get little glimpses of truth.
Yeah.
Because we didn't want to make a pandemic film.
No.
It was like about like an intimate story about people's relationships during this kind of scary time, more so.
Yeah. We don't want it to just be something that will just play now. We want it to be like a classic, really.
And now that you've gotten so much positive buzz, and again, deservedly so, and it's blown up so much, I'm sure Zoom is pretty pleased that you did use
they charged me today for my month's Zoom Pro, and I'm just like, guys,
come on.
They watched it yet? Do we know if they've actually seen it?
Where's
the
gratitude?
They took like $5.99 out of my account.
You just imagine?
Me.
That's right.
Can't you just imagine, though, whoever is in charge of Zoom thinking, "Oh, I should really have a look at this film," and then sitting down to watch it and thinking, "Oh my
God, what have they done?
What have we done?"
Yeah, but what you're saying about the response is obviously none of us expected this kind of response. Like, I'm a horror person. I read horror sites every single day, and it's universal praise across all of them. The Dread Central, which is one of my favorite like big horror sites, they've said that we are the scariest film of the decade. They said we are, as it were, the most important horror film of the decade, and that we're up there with the Blair Witch in terms of found footage. It's Blair Witch and us at the top, which is crazy from Dread Central. And we've had similar from all the big horror sites, Bloody Disgusting and all of them. And it's not just horror sites as well, like the New York Times and Fox News on the same day ran pieces on us, which is crazy. And then just loads of broadsheets, tabloids, every film website you can think of.
Especially considering I read that, basically this all came from an idea just 12 or 13 weeks ago. Is that right?
12 weeks from conception, from when I text Rob and said 2 words, Zoom seance, to it being on Shudder.
Wow.
That's it.
It's insane.
Wow, that's great. Yeah. Well,
I was just going to say, I think it's hard not to. The reaction has been amazing, and I don't know about how you guys feel, but it's hard not to get too excited and let it all get to your head. But I suppose the thing I've been loving the most is just seeing how there's certain comments where people have said it's not just scared me, it's made me feel like in this kind of quite anxious time, it's like a cathartic, it's made me feel seen, like this kind of experience that I'm trapped in. It feels like it's quite like someone said that moment that we were talking about earlier, when it's just a slight tiny spoiler, but when one of the characters puts on a mask, it's just a small little detail, but it's just like this. Someone on Twitter was like, "Oh, that made me want to cry." Just kind of seeing oh my God, that's me in that moment, and that kind of anxiety about going outside. You have to, so that's the kind of stuff that you kind of really live for, I guess.
Gemma, I can see why they reached out to you to help write. Yeah, because I would not have thought of it that way, but you're absolutely right. So I'm sorry I interrupted someone.
Oh, I was just going to say, I saw someone tweet that they felt quite comforted, you buying it, because they felt really alone, and they didn't feel as alone when they watched the film, which I thought was lovely.
That's really nice.
That's nice.
Yeah.
What was
I'm terrified.
Go on, John.
No, I'm just going to say what I thought was there were a few things I thought were work very, very well about the film, and as a writer myself, I'll put it down to the writing. But I thought that the idea that we live in this disconnected world right now, physically disconnected from one another, and what are we looking for? We're looking for connection, and so here's a seance where we're trying to bring connection, and that just turns it does what horror does, right? Where it takes that thing that, wow, I really want to feel connected, but holy cow, the very thing that's letting us be connected right now, I mean, for all we know, there's an evil spirit that's transmitting amongst all of us right now at this very moment, and it's behind each and every one of us.
The seance hasn't finished.
It's actually right now it's behind Bridget.
That's her husband. But
yeah. Mike, her husband Mike is the evil spirit, right, Bridget?
But one of the things that I thought was so great, that the little things that you sprinkle throughout, sprinkle's not the right word, pepper the narrative with, so that at the beginning it seemed to me that there was the suggestion that maybe Haley, who is really anxious about all of this, and there are some weird noises that are going on in her apartment, which I don't just think this is too much of a spoiler, which we kind of write off. We think, oh, all right, that's just, but especially with the title Host, I have to admit, I thought, so is there, can we read this film in a certain way? I'm trying to be non-spoilery, so that someone is spreading something or disseminating something to other people.
Very interesting.
That they're having some kind of experience. They're trying to come to terms with it. They get the Scottish psychic, who was wonderful. I thought she was just terrifically earnest. I have to admit, it makes me very concerned that so many members of the cast are not here right now, because I want to know, did they survive the filming, right? Or is it,
not allowed to talk about
again, to the psychic, as John just brought up, I won't say why, but again, using the reality of things that can go wrong on a Zoom call or anything internet related sometimes, and one of those things happens to her. This is the reason why she disappears. And if that glitch had not happened, then the rest of it would not have happened. It's just really brilliantly set up. I just can't say.
Yeah, and there were so many background details. I mean, one of the things that I think that the filming does so brilliantly is just put so many things in the background. And of course, that's what you do when you're on a Zoom call. You look at each other's backgrounds, and you see the figure standing in the corner, and you're like, that figure wasn't there a minute ago, or you see something hanging from the ceiling, and so the way that it plays with your anxiety, and you cannot help then, right? You every time somebody's on now, you're increasingly focused on them. And I agree. I thought Gemma, the character of Gemma, was heroic at the end. She puts on her mask. Although did anybody else keep thinking of the panelists? Has nobody seen Supernatural? You need your salt, right? You make a ring of salt around you.
That's funny. Danielle
say
that, John. She's like, do we need to put salt around the windows and the doors? I'm like, I think we're okay.
So did you know the film that me and Rob made before this was called Salt?
Oh my gosh, really?
That it's about that very thing. Where,
nice.
Yeah.
Great.
So check that out if you get a chance.
It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
Well, the scene where Caroline goes into the drawer, and I thought, oh, thank God, someone's going for their crucifix, and then it was like, no, their selfie stick. And I was come on.
Yeah. It's one of those things where
it's a tech horror.
Yeah,
it's nobody's seen.
Speaking of evil, selfie sticks are evil. So
yes, they are.
But again, that scene in the attic.
Yeah,
you'll know when you get there.
Yeah.
It's
that plays into one of our influences, like myself and Rob. We obviously love found footage, and one of the best British found footage films is Ghost Watch from 1992.
Yeah. Yes,
BBC one.
A famous one. Yeah.
Oh man, that's so good.
Yeah, and we're both really obsessed with it, and Gemma loves it as well. And you'll notice a lot of Ghost Watch British kind of folk horror almost influence in it, in terms of things you see in the background, even camera movements kind of mirror some of the things in Ghostwatch. It's just a big influence, and it's been called in a few places the new Ghostwatch I've seen, which is
that's the best. Well, the best review.
Yeah.
Ghostwatch was great.
Yeah.
I only learned about it like 3 years ago and watched it, and I was like, man, this is awesome.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that one yet.
There's something really fascinating you do too with the character of, is it Ted and
Teddy
and Ginny?
Yeah.
I don't know how to put this delicately. There's a certain amount of projection maybe that goes on, but I don't know, man. You know what I'm talking about. Everybody else.
No.
Not you, Davis. You never know.
I'm clueless. Yeah.
You never understand my genius. But
There's
no,
a reason
I thought
for that.
oh man, there was something. We're having our own ghost watch here.
Yeah.
But there was something really. I mean, number one, I wondered how that visual effect was. That seemed to me the most extravagant of the visual effects.
So that
this is big spoiler territory.
But that was before we started. We had a meeting with the stunt team, and when I say stunt team, everything was done socially distanced, which is the first for them. And me and Rob gave our wish list, gave them a heads up, like, this is what we want to do. We don't know if it's possible in these conditions, but wouldn't it be really cool if we did this? And they were like, we can't. Like, what's the slightly smaller version of that? But we were really adamant on what we wanted, and Rob was very adamant on making this as surprising as possible, because you wouldn't think on your life that a Zoom horror film would be able to achieve this level of stunts. And yeah, it was a technical feat of magic, basically.
Yeah, no, and it's but at the same time, it does come back to the performances too, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it really does.
There is this real feeling that the cast projects, that these are dear and deep friends they've even let an American into the group, and
they are tolerant.
Perish the thoughts.
Did you like that? Yeah.
Well, I did. I was like, I'm being represented.
Yeah.
And so
you old white men have it tough.
I'm glad we can talk about this, Mike.
Yeah.
No, and I thought that there was something, and Gemma putting on the mask at the end sort of embodies that they are trying to help each other. That in so many horror films, the group breaks down and the group turns on itself. This wasn't that. It was they're facing really terrible things, but I don't know. I feel like in some ways, like you could make the argument that there's more of a kind of a feminist dynamic at work here, where it's like, women trying to get together, even though, it's a horror movie. But
well, you'll notice that the male characters in this are very secondary, and barely really have any screen time, and they're very quite one-dimensional. The male characters in some respects. I mean, Teddy is actually fully rounded as a bit of a boisterous Caroline's ex-boyfriend.
That was
but like
fun.
Radina's boyfriend in it is essentially just there to be cannon fodder, really. Whereas the girl,
yeah, Alan, bless him. Even now, he's just he's doing what he did throughout the whole filming. I'm filming, so can you just go to the bedroom? He's like, yep, that's fine.
No, he'll be able to ride that. What happens to him? He'll be able to show up in horror conventions for the rest of his life. And people will ask him stories about that. How did you do that? And he'll be like, "Let me tell you." I'm the ceiling guy. Great. Yeah.
Was this a deliberate kind of in joke? The old thing where in a restaurant, all the women. One goes to the restroom, so they all go to the restroom together. It's kind of so in the Zoom call, one of you goes to the restroom and then all of you go, and I'm like, see, even in a Zoom call, it happens.
So
that is so funny.
But that was terrifying. That was terrifying because there's all the empty space, and you're just like, do you have any idea? Because if you're not in the screen, that means I have to look at something else potentially, and that was
I'm fond of saying, if you never have to go to the restroom, then maybe you should consider the fact that you're not real and you're in a horror movie or something. But it doesn't work here because they did. So
I had my little dog with me, and she was like, what's the problem? And I was like, they all went to the bathroom.
Yeah, and Regina goes twice, I think.
Yeah, Regina has a panic wee.
Yeah.
That's right. I was right there with her.
Yeah, and that's not only
too much wine.
Yeah.
It adds to the realism if these people halfway through the movie they have to go to the toilet. But you're right, John, when you say some of the most scariest thing in horror movies is silence and empty space.
Expectation.
Yeah, it's like in Ringu or the Ring remakes. Like when you just see a well appear, it's like 10 seconds before Sadako pokes her head out of it, but you know it's coming, and you're filled with so much dread even before you see her creepy fingernails over that brickwork.
And I have to say that the kind of supernatural effects that you guys brought to the screen really work. I mean, and part of it is because it's just 2 seconds or not even. But I feel like those are so hard to do. Even there's one floating thing that I think actually works really well, and particularly for that character.
Is that for Emma?
Possibly.
Yeah. So, I mean,
there's a few floating things.
Yeah. Well, that mask, I won't say too much about it, but that mask is based on the mask from Alice Sweet Alice, the 1970s first ever slasher movie, which is also just popped onto Shudder as well. So it was Rob's kind of nod to how great Alice Sweet Alice is, which was Brooke Shields' first movie, I think when she was like 12 or something.
You're an encyclopedia, man.
What you guys were talking about just a second ago with John made me think of the Hitchcock saying, I won't get this exactly right, but he said something to the effect of, a bomb is under the table and it explodes. That's surprise. A bomb is under the table. You know there's a bomb under the table and it doesn't explode possibly yet. That's suspense. So when everyone leaves, there's that suspense.
Everybody's in the toilet. That's suspense.
I wanted to add, not all of us were in the toilet. Some of us were getting drinks.
That's true. Yeah.
Right.
Well, what was going on? You needed to alcohol up.
My character downs a bottle of wine in it, so.
That's right.
And Emma's kind of sequence of till her demise is, I think, one of the most impressive things about the film, where you think, okay, that character's gone now. Nope, she survived. Here it comes again. Something else happens, then something else happens, and then something else happens. And then I think
messages from people being like, I was really rooting for you because I thought you were going to make it. And I was like,
but I think the most iconic image of the movie is when is almost a parallel to the Blair Witch as well, is when Emma's underneath the blankets and you're just seeing a triangle of her eye. And that triangle of the eye, even though I know Emma really well, scares the living crap out of me. Just because I'm like,
feel like a child.
Yeah, it's like, what is? I need to see more information. I need to see more stuff. And just because something's probably going to be there when she removes that blanket, it's terrifying even for us who were like part of it.
So here's a couple of things from the live chat. Jeff Whitmore says, this movie is our generation psycho. #MeToo, strong feminine characters, quarantine. It's that good!
That's so nice.
Thank you.
Oh
well, I think you guys have a ton of fans like that now. So, and then Brad Munson, I'm curious about this, so I'm glad he brought it up. He says, literally cannot wait for the directors / actors commentary on the DVD release. But that's not done as much anymore with streaming. Are you planning on doing anything like that?
We should do.
Oh, I hope so.
That would be cool. Yeah.
I'm not allowed to say too much, but
right.
Yeah, I can't say. but
I know. Well, I know what your answer means. So yeah.
But I can say that we filmed
But your non-answer
absolutely everything. Like when we first met Gemma, I think that was filmed. We first met up with the stunt guys. When we first told the actors they were going to be in a movie, we had them all on Zoom and we filmed everything. And every step of the first seance we did,
that's not creepy really at all.
We filmed it. The seance that we did before we started filming, just as a practice, to see their original reactions, we filmed it and we caught something very weird and supernatural on camera before we put the film. And we did. You'll see when it comes out. And and we used some of that as the basis of what would happen in the movie, but there was some real weird stuff happened. I'm not saying it's a cursed movie, but I'm just saying there's some weird stuff happened. And all while they were filming, some of them were filming some behind the scenes stuff of how they did certain things, like sound, just setting up stuff by themselves. And
I filmed myself blacking out the windows because we had to black out our windows every day. I mean, unless you left it up. If you were smart, you would have done that. But like
with some daylight,
tinfoil and like bin bags and like reaching up and sticking it up.
Yeah.
And it was
mine up for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
My poor parents just spent like 2 weeks sitting in the garden with me being like, "We're filming, you've got to be quiet." And then they had a kettle in the garden, and they'd like fill the kettle up. And then bless them, they were so cute, absolute legends.
You could take your dad, Caroline. You could take your dad to conventions. He'll be a big hit at conventions. He can just like pull up his shirt to everybody. You know?
Yeah,
look at my tan.
It'll be like Gal Gadot, Chris Evans, and Pat.
Yeah,
exactly.
We'll cosplay as Pat.
Right.
Oh my god.
What?
I've been reading him the tweets, and he's absolutely loving it. He's so funny because he'll like, I'll read him the tweets, and he's like, "This is brilliant," and then 2 seconds later, he's like wandering off, and like he was hoovering a fence this morning. I was like, "What are you doing?" But there were loads of cobwebs on it. He was hoovering it in the garden.
Well, the paparazzi are going to be coming for him. He wants to make sure that things are clean, you know.
I was going to say,
very true. But we are putting together a kind of like a making of thing for something in the future. So a lot of people have asked for it, obviously, because this is new territory. The infrastructure isn't there to make a film in lockdown until now. So we will be showing people how we did it, doing a Penn and Teller, really.
Well, I was going to make a joke, but it's probably true. Next time I want to interview you guys, I'll have to go through 3 layers of people before I'm able to reach you, because you'll be that famous.
You've got our email, just email us.
I'm grandfathered in now, yeah. Most importantly, Radino, what the hell are you drinking? That is one big bottle.
Oh, me? Oh,
yes.
This is water. I promise.
Oh, it's
this is
just water.
Yeah.
Well,
but it's only because I've had a bit of wine today with my boyfriend to celebrate, and then now it's a bit of water.
I don't want to keep you guys too much longer because I know how late it is there, but
it's fine.
It doesn't sleep.
Yeah, that's one of the first things Judd emailed me. He's like, I don't sleep. Whenever
I've got movies to watch, I can't sleep.
It's not really the same movie at all, but just at the beginning, it kind of, especially when I'm looking at your characters while you're speaking with each other, and I'm just thinking, okay, I know this is a horror movie. I need to keep my eyes on the background, that sort of thing. It reminded me a little bit of that, not the film version, but the short film Lights Out. Have you guys seen that?
Yeah.
You haven't?
I see what you mean.
It's on YouTube. And
just the open doors and
yeah,
It's
like what, 4 minutes long or something, Judd, and it's so scary.
It's almost the perfect short. Like
yeah,
it's crazy.
Speaking of shorts. short film as opposed to, maybe the standard hour and a half to 2 hours. I really think it was, I don't know if you did this consciously or not, but I have the feeling that you did. It seems to me a gutsy choice to make it just right at an hour. It's not a short film of like 20 minutes, 10 to 20 minutes, but it's not a feature length of 90 minutes or so either. There's just enough to where if there was more, it would be filler and not as effective. And I just think that's brilliant of you guys to do it that way, and brave of you guys to do it that way. So,
well, it's one of the main things people have been complimenting us on, because people get bored. Like, horror fans have seen everything, and you do get bored. And also, we weren't sure that a movie set on Zoom could fill 90 minutes. Not that we didn't have faith in it, but we originally were tasked with doing something that was around the half-hour mark. But then we thought, okay, well, a real free Zoom call is 40 minutes. So we'll do it for 40 minutes. So it'll be exactly real time. And it's essentially, it is set in real time. It's like movie real time. So it's a little bit of padding, but it's still in the movie world 40 minutes long. But my attention span is essentially zero. The film we did before this was 2 minutes long. So this seemed like a very long time. But yeah,
bring on the hour movie.
Yeah, well, it's the perfect length. I remember when the Phantom Menace came out, there was so much to hate about it. But what I think pissed me off the most was later I found out that George Lucas said that the Phantom Menace and what was the next one? Episode 2?
Attack of the Clones.
Attack of the Clones. He basically said that those two movies he considered mostly filler till you get to the third movie. And I'm like, well, screw you, dude. You could have done better than that. Come on.
I heard he's getting the next trilogy back. I heard he's going to direct at least the next one, 10.
I'm done with Star Wars. I'm gonna watch.
He says that, but he's not done with Star Wars.
No,
he's going to be back there.
I'm
will
Star
I.
Trek man. I'm Star Trek all the way.
That's okay. It's all right, Mike.
It's okay to be wrong, right? Right, John?
Yep. I've made a living at it. Yeah.
So, what's this I hear about a Raimi film?
Yeah.
Can you talk about it? Because I've seen it online.
Yeah, it's been announced. It's been announced in the trades and stuff.
Okay, I think I must have missed it then. I just heard a little bit.
Yeah, it was everywhere. But me and Rob's our favorite director is Sam Raimi. So after we did Salt, our kind of profiles were high, and Rob is just a sought after director anyway because he's just genius. So we got multiple offers for various different projects, and we obviously wanted to work with Sam Raimi, so it was extremely easy. And for the last few months, we've been working on a film with him, and it's still going, and it's just an incredibly cool, high concept idea. And it's one of those ideas where me and Rob are like, someone has got to have done this before. We can't have thought of this, but because luckily myself and Rob are encyclopedias of horror, we know that nobody's done it before. And we thought, maybe there's a sci-fi movie, or maybe there's like a kind of a weird foreign film that's kind of done this premise before. Nobody has done this premise before. So we're like, wow, if we just happen to find someone to make this, it's going to do gangbusters. And luckily Sam Raimi, he read it, well, he heard the pitch and said yes in the room, basically. And
wow, nice.
The rest is, it's going to be very exciting times. But we also want to do something else with Shudder as well. I'm very cautious of what I'm saying here, but hopefully off the back of this, they'll let us do another one. So we're waiting for the green light for that, and we'll start thinking about what the next one could be.
Well,
yeah, that's exciting news. I would love to see what all of you are going to do next.
Yeah, it's got to feel so surreal for all of you right now too.
The girls are famous. These girls I see every day, they're like famous.
Elijah would look like our film now, so that's winning.
Well, I know we're all in social isolation, but do you guys go to the grocery store and get asked for an autograph or anything like that?
Oh no!
I think we're there yet. But do you know what's weird? All of this has basically come from like a very little bit of promotion and a lot of word of mouth.
Yeah.
Like almost completely word of mouth, and like it's just crazy to show what the internet can do. I think it kind of suits the film. But that's
we didn't have a poster or a trailer until the day after the film dropped.
Yeah.
It was just grassroots, us talking about it, friends of us talking about it, and then the entire world talking about it. It's crazy. I don't know if it could ever be replicated because it's
only
just
been out like 3 days as well.
Well,
no, don't say that.
What did you say?
3 days. It's only been out 3 days. Really?
Wow, is that a fact? Wow.
Yeah, 4 days. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Thursday.
Oh yeah, you're right. 4 days.
Okay.
Well, a couple of friends of mine, Stephen Graham Jones, Paul Tremblay, these guys are just fantastic horror writers.
Has Paul seen it, by the way?
Pardon me?
Has Paul Tremblay seen it?
Yeah, he tweeted, I think it was yesterday, he tweeted that something to the effect of, I'm tweeting while I'm watching this, so I'm not so scared, or something like that. Didn't he say that? Something like that, John?
It sounds about right, yeah. Paul is afraid of a lot of things, including pickles, but especially your film.
I like Paul Tremblay. Head Full of Ghosts is the scariest book I've read in a long time. So that means a lot. That's cool. I'm going to find that tweet later.
Well, the other part of that quartet is John Langan, and
no.
Yeah, he's a read The Fisherman by John Langan, or anything by John Langan. But yeah,
every time the advertising costs are killing me on this show.
You've got a good author's name, John Langan. That sounds like an author you can rely on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a Langan book. Yep.
I like that. An author you can rely on.
Yeah.
He will scare the Langan out of you.
Ooh.
Yeah, that doesn't sound very pleasant, does it? Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
Thanks, Mike. Way to make it weird.
Well, your new slogan. I'll send you a bill. Okay. Anything else you guys want to talk about that maybe I didn't ask that I should have?
I was like, Gemma's got some cool projects coming up in the future.
Okay.
Gemma, what?
Yeah, please.
What can I talk about? I'll talk about one. It is a show called Red Rose that I was one of the writers on. It's a British horror TV show that's going to be on BBC in the UK and Netflix everywhere else. And it's another tech horror. So that's a bit of a experiment, I guess, because Britain don't really make we don't really make TV horror.
Red Rose is the title.
Red Rose, yeah, it's like about a sort of haunted app that attacks some teenagers in Manchester area. So yeah, hopefully that goes well.
Good. When is that coming out?
Well, I mean, because of lockdown, all of the filming stopped, hasn't it?
Right.
So
right.
Next year.
Okay.
No, Gemma, they're going to have from the writer of Host on the poster for that.
No.
They will.
I didn't create it. I did not create it. I wouldn't take that. But yeah.
But they'll want it.
I know what I was going to. Speaking of Paul Tremblay, you said you loved Head Full of Ghosts. Have you read? My favorite of his is Disappearance at Devil's Rock. Have you read that one?
No, I haven't. But Rob was talking to me about it yesterday. I do need to get that.
Yeah, that's. I told Paul a couple weeks ago when he was on here that like most of us on this panel here, we're always talking about how our to be read piles of books are just they get higher and higher. And I said, I'm the same way. I said to Paul, but I've read Disappearance at Devil's Rock twice. It's just such a great book. I mean, not Head Full of Ghosts is great too, but just my personal tastes.
Yeah. Well, Head Full of Ghosts. Like, I'm very desensitized to horror, and especially in book form, because I at that point I hadn't read a book that really affected me really. And then I read Head Full of Ghosts, and I was scared to turn the page because I just didn't want to see what was happening. And my imagination just ran wild. I was like, I don't want that to happen. Please oh no, that is exactly what's going to happen. Please.
Wait till the movie comes out, Judd.
I know.
And you'll really be screwed.
I know.
You'll be in the theater going like this.
Yeah. I can't wait to see it. I'm really excited. But I am going to read. What was that book you said?
Disappearance at Devil's Rock.
Disappearance at Devil's Rock.
You know, there's a movie. You like this movie too, don't you, John? Lake.
Lake Mungo.
Lake Mungo.
Yeah.
Lake Mungo.
Yeah.
One of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah. That's a fantastic film. And Disappearance at Devil's Rock.
Yes.
Riffs on that.
Some similarities
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of Paul's stuff is great. I hate him with a passion. Yeah. I mean,
a complete jerk.
Cabin at the End of the World. Stories and Growing Things. And the new one is Survivor's Song.
Yeah, I've heard amazing things about that.
It's amazing, but it is
tough.
Pandemic,
right?
It's I mean, that's the thing, is that the first maybe 50, 60 pages of it, I actually found it's a great book. Please, everybody buy it, read it. But it's so spot on in the way that it imagines what did happen in the United States. If you know what I mean. Like he was like,
ago, right, John?
Yeah, he was like, under this administration, what would happen if we had a horrible pandemic? Oh, complete and utter chaos. Okay. But there's a kind of a real kind of beating heart to it in a good way. It doesn't turn into, although you could say it's a sort of a zombie novel, or sort of, but the infected aren't dehumanized, which is what often happens in these kinds of narratives, where they just become target practice. There's a really powerful pushback against that. And I highly recommend it.
What are you up to, girls? Caroline, Medina, and Emma?
Pardon me?
Emma's, all of these girls are in my film called Multiplex, which is going to be, I'm going to drop a trailer in a couple of weeks, and then it's going to probably be out sometime October, but it stars all the girls from Host. And
what's like just spoiler-free synopsis of it?
So it's based on myself and my sister when we were like 16, and it is about this brother and sister who need money fast. They hear an urban legend about a cinema that if you watch films in a certain order, you go there at 9 a.m. when it opens, and you watch films in a certain order all day, an 8th screen will appear, and you go through that door, and there'll be possibly gold or some kind of treasure. But the only thing is, there is a spirit in the cinema that tries to stop you from progressing, and the way it does that is by using the films that you watch against you. So, for example, if you watch Jurassic Park, you go into the foyer, there'll be dinosaurs there trying to stop you to get the screen too.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so on, and so on, and so on.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Very biased, but it's great. We premiered it at the Glasgow Film Festival the week before lockdown, and when we got there, they told us, like people are angry that they can't get into it, and we're like, what do you mean? It's, because it's sold out and people like are angry that they can't get in. We need to put on another screen. Like,
that's that's what you call a good problem to have.
Yeah. So then we sat in the audience, and like, so Emma's the star of it, by the way. We sat down, and just like everyone went absolutely bat smeg over it, and they were dancing and they were shouting, banging the seats. I mean, we're like, what is going on? What have we created? And then the Q&A afterwards was crazy, and I was like, I don't know what we've done here. We've just like captured lightning. So we've kind of been waiting to the right time to kind of put it online, or wait till maybe some more festivals will open up, because it was going to do a festival run, but because of this, it didn't. But
you wrote
it's
it,
exciting.
or
like all of the girls from Host is in it. It's really handy.
You wrote it or directed it or both?
I wrote it and directed it. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it's a 20-minute short, by the way. It's not like a full-length film. Well, maybe 20 minutes is a full-length film now. Who knows? But yeah, I think we'll drop the trailer quite soon. We'll let it the Host kind of like hype die down a little bit, and then we'll break the internet. Yeah.
Never.
I don't know, John. I think Judd here is turning into the Sutter Kane of film if we're not careful here. You know,
I mean, you said that, not me, but I will use that on a poster.
The Sutter Kane. That's one of those things that cuts both ways. You know.
Yeah. That's
Does that mean I'm evil as well?
You know,
it's not where I was going with it, but sure, if you want to take it that way.
I'm sure your actors would not say that you were evil at all.
No, hopefully they like me a lot. But yeah, Emma plays my sister in it, and the guy that plays me is Lewis McDougall, who was the kid from A Monster Calls, that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the kid from that plays me as a kid, luckily.
Are you?
Yeah.
Which one's older, you or your sister?
We're roughly the same age, but in the film we kind of. I mean, Emma's a few years older than the actor who plays Lewis McDougall, but she's playing a 16-year-old in it, approximately. We never say their ages really, but
right.
She uses her real name in it, and Lewis uses his name. And the thing that's different about this is it's not just the horror; it's a sci-fi, because we're using all the different films they go see, and they see real films as well. And there's a big musical number in it as well. So Emma because Emma's the musician, she sings and she dances and songwriter. So Emma gets to perform and do a big musical number.
Nice.
And it's funny.
Yeah.
It's funny as well.
Nice.
And that's how I met you guys. You, Caroline and on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're both in
I knew Gemma from an advert we did years ago.
Not me.
Well.
The other Gemma. Gemma with a J.
With a J.
Maybe I can get you guys back when that comes out and talk about it. So,
sure, yeah.
I really appreciate you guys doing this on kind of more or less on the spur of the moment. So it's been great, and I wish you all the success with this and your future films, because you deserve it, really, truly, sincerely, because there is a lot of junk out there, and this is really a little gem of a film. It really is.
Cheers, John.
And
cheers, Mike. John.
Thank you so much.
And Bridget. Thanks, Bridget.
John hates it. That's what he told me.
Right, I was like, dang, it's not those guys. Yeah.
Anybody but those people.
Anybody but them. Come on. Don't you have the guys who did Mega Shark versus Colossal Tornado?
Sharknado, yeah.
Host versus Sharks.
Third Day After Never, those guys will be on the show.
Flying
Sharks, I still don't get it.
No, I like Sharks on Zoom.
What could go wrong?
The old Saturday Night Live.
It's a much shorter movie. I mean, it's only about but it's very, very bloody.
It's not John Langdon. It's the land shark.
Exactly.
Land shark. And there's a film called Ghost Shark as well. If you've seen the trailer for that,
oh my god!
It's the ghost of a shark that goes through a city and eats people.
No, you lost me right at the title. So.
Oh, you won me over right at the title.
Yeah,
go Shark, you say?
It sounds like a Pete Rawlik film to me, because he watched.
Now, if it were Phantom films. Shark, that would not do at all. But Ghost Shark,
I think it might be an asylum movie. I
this
don't know.
time it's personal.
Yeah,
right. Go Shark 3.
Well, the last thing I'll say is, again, I want to emphasize, just to me, the writing. I haven't met Rob, but the directing, and then the acting on the part of you ladies, it all comes together beautifully. And I don't have people on this show that I don't really admire what they're doing, and I think this is just a wonderful film. If one of these components had been off, like the directing and the writing was as good as it is, but the acting wasn't there, it wouldn't have worked, or vice versa. But yeah, everything just came together beautifully. So
thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Film.
Very lucky that the people we're friends with are extremely talented and almost effortless.
Let me flip my hair as you say that.
Well, that's why I have the panel on this show that I have. They're all they all know more than me, so they make me look good.
Especially Rick Lai in the corner there, being very quiet, judging us.
Well, no, he's he knows everything. Rick knows everything. It's just you can't compete with that. The only one who can come close is Pete Rawlick, who's not here today. So,
Okay.
all right. Well, it was so nice to, more or less, meet you guys in person.
Yeah.
And a little bit surreal that we're doing the interview on a Zoom call, but kind of cool too. I think I tweeted something to the effect of, I was relieved to find out they weren't all dead, otherwise the interview would be really awkward.
Thank you so much for having us. Yeah.
Thank you for being here. Next week, guys, we got S.P. Muskowski, and then Matthew Bartlett the week after that, and then some guy named John Langen's got a book out, and Larry Barron's going to be on there.
I've heard bad things, to be honest.
I would not. I mean, it's no Ghost Shark, that's for sure.
No, it's not. It's called Children of the Fang, and it's with Word Horde, right, John?
Yes.
And you can go ahead and pre-order it. Just Google Children of the Fang, talking to the audience here, and Word Horde, HORDE. Right. And then, of course, Laird's third Coleridge book is called Worse Angels.
Laird Barron's new novel.
Where Coleridge dips into some
ghost shark. There's a ghost shark in that novel.
Yeah.
You've got to have a ghost shark in every movie, otherwise.
Well, I do. Didn't Tolstoy say that was one of the three central plots? There was something about like people fall in love, someone comes to town, and ghost shark.
I think that was what you were going for.
And I think Laird would agree with me on this. That ghost shark is what he's been leading towards his entire career. He's been building up to that.
Which one of us hasn't? I mean, Paul as well. We're all racing to be the first one to get to Ghost Shark.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, you guys, thanks for being here. It's got it. Well,
can I just say one more thing?
1:30 there, right?
Yeah. Can I say one more thing?
Yes, please.
Happy Spookies.
Happy Spookies. Happy Spookies.
Which is a line from the film, in case you haven't seen it.
Well, it's going to be weird when I rewatch the film, since I've more or less met you guys in person, but I'm going to rewatch it because it's so great. So
thank you so much.
Thank you.
So thanks to all of you for being here, and I hope I get to talk to you soon. So.
Yeah, you will, definitely.
All right, have a good night.
Everybody.
Thank you, everyone.